Welcome to the grand finale of NARRATE Talks. Over the past 5 episodes, we've traveled from the initial spark of NARRATE project to the successful testing of intelligent manufacturing custodian in real-world environments. We've seen how AI, digital twins, and IoT can transform a rigid supply chain into a self-orchestrated, resilient, and sustainable network. But as our project concludes, a larger story begins. How do these innovations fit into a broader European vision for strategic autonomy? How does NARRATE help Europe punch at its industrial weight in a digital era? Today we look at the long-term impact. We aren't just building tools. We are helping to shape the policies and standards that will govern the next generation of European industry. Welcome. For our final panel, we are joined by the leaders focusing on the afterlife and the wider legacy of the project. Professor Dr. Tarmo Kalvet is a research director at Policy Lab. He is also a joint professor at the Department of Business Administration at Tallinn University of Technology, where he leads the International Trade Research Group. His work centers on strengthening Europe's competitiveness, resilience, strategic foresight in an increasingly fragmented global economy, now also dedicated to the NARRATE project. Professor Dr. Thomas Knothe is a department head at Fraunhofer IBK, a global authority in interoperability, currently leading standardization efforts for the NARRATE project. With a background in computer science and manufacturing, Thomas chairs major European committees to bridge the gap between industrial engineering and the digital future. And Frank, once again, for a final time, Director of Research at BlueBridgeSolutions, a PhD from Karlsruhe Institute of Technology with over 15 years of expertise. Frank has contributed significantly to the German standardization roadmap and artificial intelligence and holds more than 30 patents in the field. Tarmo, the geopolitical landscape is shifting rapidly. How does NARRATE's market signal analysis help Europe identify critical import dependencies before they become crises, especially for countries still building the digital infrastructure? So, to start, Tarmo, the geopolitical landscape is shifting rapidly. How does NARRATE's market signal analysis help Europe identify critical import dependencies before they become crises, especially for countries still building their digital infrastructure?
When talking of how the NARRATE approach can become the standard for European manufacturing, I would like to raise one widening country-specific aspect here. Namely, there is a risk, real risk, of a two-speed Europe emerging in smart manufacturing. We have, on the one hand, the core industrial countries that have stronger research and development systems, larger firms that are better integrated into high-value segments of global value chains. And on the other hand, if you take it in a simplistic way, there are widening countries that often are specializing in lower value-added manufacturing, assembly, and subcontracting, and they have also narrower export structures, and they are frequently more concentrated in specific trade relationships, and therefore more exposed to external shocks. So smart manufacturing networks in Europe could become geographically uneven. Actually, this is already happening. If I look at the various statistics, it shows that the smart manufacturing solutions are generally less applied in widening countries as compared to the core Europe. And this would not undermine only cohesion, but also EU resilience as such, because resilience in Europe depends on distributed capabilities, not just the centers. So if we want the NARRATE approach to become the standard for European manufacturing, further efforts are needed towards the widening countries to increase awareness on smart manufacturing in the widening countries, to encourage them to use tools developed by NARRATE and other initiatives, and to support their implementation by local policies and stakeholders. And then in this podcast already, some very concrete organizations and initiatives have been mentioned, like chambers of trade, of commerce, ethics, and so on. And they could be reached out to have really impact in the widening countries. And then also it has been already mentioned in the podcast earlier that NARRATE might be particularly appealing to widening country participants due to low entrance barriers on skills, on costs, and so on. And I'm sure this would help widening countries to catch up in smart manufacturing.
Thank you, Tarmo. It's vital that no one is left behind in this transition. Now, Frank, innovation shouldn't sit on a shelf. Tell us about the strategy for commercialization, the key exploitable results, and how businesses can continue to access the IMC and our AI models.
A successful business and operating plan for commercializing the key exploitable results of NARRATE, the key R's, as we call them, it could be as follows. For example, we start with a clear value proposition. So every successful commercialization journey that usually begins with sort of an sharp understanding why the key ERs, the key exploitable results matter. And that is the reason why we used and defined a problem that this particular key ER solves. The target user who feel that this problem is something pressing to them, and a unique value proposition for our solution that it brings to the market instead in comparison to other existing alternatives. And this is not just, if you wish, a marketing exercise. It is the foundation of every decision that follows in the end. So it's about pricing, it's about partnership, it's about intellectual property, IP, and strategy, and also about the technical roadmap. And this brings, and this also in the end bridges it to the Osterwald, the business canvas, or the business canvas in general that we have. Then it's about an understanding of the marketing competitive landscape. So a strong plan demonstrates that we know the environment in which our pilots are working and which they're doing their business. And using this, we enter the market size and the growth potential, or we address customer segments and the adoption of barriers, or we address competitors or potential substitutes and emerging trends. And this also then allows us to position the key exploitable results in an intelligent way, that they don't only help us to identify the most promising early adopter segments, but in the end also the fastest route to the market, to a successful market entrance. Then there are also other elements that you might make use of. For example, a robust exploitation strategy. That is in the end how to get money out of your investment. So commercialization is not a single path, but it is sets or a portfolio of different options. As a successful plan usually evaluates in the most suitable exploitation route for each key exploitable result. And as such, we have, for example, how do we license the solution to industrial partners? How do we deal with an internal adoption by consortium members, in particular after the project, when we are, let's say, in a new space, because the grant agreement then is no longer valid? How do we deal with, let's call it spin-off creation? How do we tackle the problem of open source or freemium models to accelerate the uptake by an open source community? How do we deal with joint ventures for high investment opportunities? And all of those questions in the end match to the maturity of the key exploitable results, the market readiness, the risk awareness or the risk profile within the right exploitation mechanism. And I think there's even much more that I could potentially now also tell and mention. So it's using and distilling, defining the key exploitable results. It's also about how to protect, how to manage IP, how to develop a feasibility model that includes revenue models, licensing, subscription, off-shelf sales, cost structures, pricing strategies, and all of those elements, which we also address in the business canvas. So there we have the value proposition, cost structures, how to get to the customer, the different channels, and all those different elements that then in the end comprise a hopefully successful business marketing strategy.
Finally, none of this work without a common framework. Thomas, how is NARRATE contributing to the European and international standards that will allow these smart manufacturing networks to scale?
In NARRATE, we are developing specific solutions for the resilience of global manufacturing chains, upstream and downstream. And this kind of resilience and even the technical standards for the exchange of products, for exchange of data, and for process synchronization are a matter of standardization in different working groups and different technical committees under ISO level, under IEC, and even UNCFACT already. So what we had now established are solutions which can contribute to the existing standardization work. There are at least two major groups where we can contribute to that. One is the ISO TC 184 SC5. There is industrial automation and even cross organization-wise, and as well with the notion of interoperability. Here, our solutions, for instance, for automatic process generation and the custodian can contribute to already existing standardization work. And this is one of the part we will perform. The other way is that currently Europe is in a front floor of establishing an entire ecosystem for digital product passports. In product passports, we are developing a system where we can perform the track and trace of supply chains along global value chains, at least. So this means here is as well an opportunity to contribute. First now in the standardization work for the DPP system, which is today done in the Zenelec JTC 24 Digital Product Passport Framework and System, where we can see which kind of specifics we are developing here can contribute. The good news is that there is currently new ISO IEC JTC 5 in, let me say, forming. This is the new joint technical committee under ISO and IEC, which deals with the entire ecosystem of digital product passports. And here, the entire upstream and downstream supply chain will be a matter of elaboration. And especially here, because this is new, the work of the NARRATE project can help a lot how to contribute with resilient supply chain organization as well reliable and trustworthy DPPs. So this is one part that we can do here. The second is that we have currently work under the Zenelec JTC 21. This is about AI, artificial intelligence. Here, especially the groundbreaking work for requirements for trustworthy AI is under development currently. Here as well, the NARRATE can contribute principles how to use AI in a trustworthy way, and the other way around, to use the existing elaborations of exactly this JTC 21 for making our work waterproof. A third activity under European level is the recently founded JTC 25 about data spaces. Because we are using, we can use data space environments exactly to facilitate the resilient supply chain management. Here as well, because this is newly founded, NARRATE can contribute. This means our work in NARRATE can contribute in several layers in the different activities in global and European standardization. Thanks a lot.
It's a powerful vision, a Europe that is digital unified, standard-driven, and commercially vibrant. I would like to bring our guests back for one last conversation. Tarmo and Thomas, how do we ensure that NARRATE's approach becomes a standard for European manufacturing so we can reduce our resilience and outside dependencies and stay competitive globally?
When I talk about the future of smart manufacturing in Europe, we often tend to focus overly on technology, on the development of new products, automation, robotics. So the focus is or has been very much on product innovation. And then increasingly also the focus has turned to process innovation on how we produce those products. But we shouldn't forget that there are also organizational innovation. That includes cross-border production coordination or market innovation, which refers to for example, to entering new markets or redefining market positioning. And then these types of innovations are very powerful ways how to outperform competitors. And I would also argue that in today's world, this is particularly important because global markets have become structurally unstable. Trade patterns are shaped by geopolitical tensions, export controls, strategic subsidies, and increasing fragmentation of global value chains. So I would argue that if Europe wants smart factories, we need intelligence to support various kinds of interlinked innovations. And this is actually exactly what Policy Lab I come from is contributing with to the NARRATE project. So first, we are working on the market signal analysis. So what do you mean by that? We need the ability to monitor trade flows, geopolitical events, tariff changes almost in real time. We need to detect early warning signals, not after the impact of disruption reaches us, but before. And then this is really important. Smart manufacturing networks depends on thousands of interconnected inputs, and disruption in one node, whether it is supply of semiconductors, special machinery parts, or critical materials, it can cascade across the system. So industrial competitiveness in Europe increasingly depends on our capacity to analyze and anticipate market signals. And in the NARRATE project, we're doing this. We are using the global database of events, language, and tone, the GDAL database, which is a global real-time news database. And we are developing AI and large language models-based tools to convert daily tens of thousands of news articles into structured data on political events, tensions, policy shifts, trade shifts. And this way we can detect early warning signals that may not appear yet in trade statistics. But for manufacturing networks, this is crucial. For example, if a region that supplies key components shows rising instability indicators, firms and policymakers need to know before disruptions reach them. So without that capability, we are reactive. With this, we can be really strategic. And in the NARRATE project, we at Policy Lab, we are also using a global trade databases for further analysis of risks and risk mitigation. In NARRATE, we focus on critical import dependencies. If you look at the public debate on critical import dependencies, it often focuses on some raw materials, rare earth metals, lithium, critical minerals. And of course, these are very, very important. But the vulnerability in smart manufacturing goes much deeper. We can talk about the intermediate industrial components, precision electronics, specialized chemicals, advanced machinery parts, often produced by a very limited number of suppliers globally. And if a critical input comes from one or two countries and alternatives are limited, this is structural vulnerability. And in many high-tech sectors, supply chains remain highly concentrated, often in China, in the US, or a small group of Asian economies. So while smart manufacturing increases productivity, it may also increase strategic exposure unless diversification and European capability building are actively pursued. And this is exactly what we are addressing in NARRATE. And then finally, what Policy Lab is doing in NARRATE project is that we are working also on export opportunities analytics. So we're developing a decision support system that combines global trade flows, market growth dynamics, political and geopolitical risk indicators, import demand trends, competitive positioning. And for smart manufacturing firms, this means moving from reactive exporting to strategic market selection. So instead of expanding into markets based on historical presence or proximity, firms can identify fast-growing import markets. And then those are exactly the tools we're developing in NARRATE and piloting with our fantastic pilot partners. So to conclude, smart manufacturing isn't not only about smarter machines. In our view, it's about the smarter strategy. And if Europe wants to stay competitive, we must anticipate risks before they materialize. We have to reduce structural dependencies before they become crisis. And we have to identify export opportunities before others do. And those activities that I mentioned, the market signal analysis, dependency mapping, and strategic export intelligence, that we're working on, they are really becoming the core elements of industrial competitiveness. And then with this, we can help the European smart manufacturing to develop.
Frank, your focus is on the business plan and commercialization the project's results. How do we make sure that the advanced tools are affordable and accessible for smaller manufacturers across all Europe, not just industrial giants?
If you're trying to commercialize funded research and development projects and make sure that resulting IoT prediction and data handling tools actually adopted by SMEs all across Europe, you're touching one of the biggest structural challenges in the European industry. And the good news is there are clear strategies that worked out in the past that we also adopt. And there's as much as about business design as they're about technologies. So there's, let's say, a workbench of different tools that we can use of. For example, one is to build a business model under the pay-as-you-grow paradigm, which means SMEs don't directly buy a platform, but they buy the outcome of a platform at a price that they can afford. And this model is in particular suitable for low entry costs or a free tier version, even modular capabilities that also scale with the maturity of the SME. Then use-based pricing instead of a large upfront licensing costs, and a clear ROI per module. So in a sense that predictive maintenance that would cost you X euros per machine per month. And this removes at least one of the biggest barriers, namely the capital expenditures at the very beginning. In addition, there are also other, let's say, strategies or things we will take into account. For example, one is to build for modularity, not for monolithic systems, in the sense that SMEs, they don't adopt a huge enterprise, a spaceship, if you want. They want to adopt for a solution that solves their problem in a particular quarter. And this can be seen as to break the solution into small and independent modules to allow SMEs to start with one feature that scales also gradually as the SMEs grow, and it allows us to avoid heavy integration requirements. And in the end, this is, let's say, an enabler which lowers risks, makes adoption psychologically and financially manageable. There are also SME-friendly business models in the sense that subscription pricing, per use model, tier-based pricing, and a free-based tier, which can be used as an anchor of trust, then which also allows us to lower the entry costs and adopt and allows an acceleration of the adoption. Then what is also quite common when marketing research and development solutions to SMEs, SMEs usually don't have IT departments. They don't have the data engineers, and they don't have time because they want to put all the knowledge, all the human resources that they have into the development of their solution. And to react to them, the NARRATE platform that we develop, that must connect to common machine types out of the box. That must come with plug-and-play gateways, and only allows or only requires a minimal configuration to be set up and to work properly. And what we also plan to accomplish is that we provide pre-trained models for common use cases, because this in the end also allows us to have a minimal onboarding task, which takes not more than a day, because otherwise the SME simply won't adopt it. Then we have an industry-ready use case that we want to target. It's not a toolbox, it's about the use case that we want to market. The platform should ship with a lot of pre-built solutions that customers can just take and start deploying as predictive maintenance models, predictive models to allow for quality drift detection, pre-built models that allow energy optimization, and so on and so forth. Because this allows SMEs in the end to get value on day one, not after a certain integration period, after several 6, 7, 8 months, but just starting from day one. Then it's also about the marketing plan that we target is also about leveraging Europeans' network for distribution. We want to reach thousands of SMEs, and for doing that, you need partners who already have the trust. And we want to target this issue by using national manufacturing associations, local chambers of commerce, the European Digital Innovation Hub, regional integrators for automation vendors. And these networks, they can provide the last mile to deliver the NARRATE solution to the SMEs. Then the marketing plan that we're targeting and the innovation is also about to create a shared data infrastructure which allows SMEs to reduce costs. So SMEs, they cannot afford the bespoke data pipelines and so on, but they can participate in the shared standardized ecosystem. And this is also what Europe provides by moving to the Gaia X or Catena X or all those manufacturing X trends. We have national data spaces, and if your platform aligns with these standards, SMEs can benefit from lower integration costs, interoperability, suppliers and customers, and access to shared models which are offered to the best price. And this is a huge data equalizer. Then we want to also invest in training and knowledge transfer. So knowledge and technology adoption fails when people feel sort of overwhelmed. And this could, for example, be solved by providing online courses, short practical training modules, and at a later stage also certification programs for SME staff. Train the trainer to spread the word, and knowledge is in the end also a real enabler to allow and to push the adoption of the solution. Then We want also to build a marketplace for add-ons, and this is something which tremendously helps SMEs to push their solution into the market, because SMEs love solutions that grow with them. And this is something which a marketplace offers. You can have third-party apps. You can have industry-specific modules that you can search and filter for. You have verticalized dashboards and specialized connectors. And this keeps the core platform affordable while enabling also advanced users to further expand. And the strategic message for the business plan in the end is, using the NARRATE project and the exploitation business plan, we will try to democratize industrial AI by offering plug-and-play platform with low entry costs, pre-built use cases, and a scalable pricing model. And this is something we want to deliver also throughout Europe, through Europe's existing SME support network, and this will be aligned with the European data space standards.
So everyone, as we look at the future of smart manufacturing networks in Europe, what is the one policy change or shift in the collaboration you believe is most critical to ensure that projects like NARRATE don't just stay in the lab, but actually define the next decade of European industry?
So I think this has already been raised by Thomas and Tarmo to some extent. It's about building an ecosystem. So it's not let's say, these standards or standalone product that we will be able to market as a research and development project. It's about an ecosystem, because there's no single SME can support the full integration of all services. And this is also a prerequisite for that we have partners with local system integrators, that we have collaborations with other SME clusters, potentially also external entities like the Chamber of Commerce and so on, and that we also have strong links to universities and applied research centers. At least my feeling, as a distributed support network, that is the only way to ensure SMEs to get help in their own language and also in their own region.
May I jump in? I'm coming more from the, let me say, applied research means how to apply in industry. And my experience now, let me say, in the last 20 years about platforms for manufacturing, supply chain platforms we developed in 2000, and then further on with the 5-year activities with cloud manufacturing. And now we are in this, let me say, specific items. This is the issue of data spaces and where we have to contribute. I see the most critical point is how to have a system where there is an easy onboarding of such ecosystems. So as Frank already indicated, because this is currently the major problem, the major obstacles we have. So as may you know, there exist already some data spaces, but the biggest problem is to create this and to have a running system which is at least attractive for the SMEs as we have here in Europe. And today, to overcome this ramp-up problems is one of the major issues we have to work on, because if not, then we keep working in this completely distributed, non-interoperable problem as we have in the last 30 years, that an SME has to have specific interfaces to 20 customers. And this is not doable for the SMEs, and this is the issue we have to solve for creating the ecosystem as Frank indicated.
Yeah, thank you. I also agree. And what I wanted to raise also an additional point is that I think the EU has done great efforts in addressing the so-called European paradox. addressing the gap between excellent research and limited commercialization through Horizon Europe, Digital Europe, cohesion instruments, and then so on. But the challenge I think these days we are facing is different. It's not about only moving innovation from the lab to the market. It's also addressing all the risks which are associated with those novel products and processes. And it's about introducing strategic intelligence from projects like NARRATE into permanent governance structures. So it's not enough to have excellent products or production processes. This must be supported by advanced risk management and foresight tools, and then NARRATE and projects similar to NARRATE really something to contribute to.
And with that, we bring the curtain down for NARRATE Talks. Our journey has shown that the smart manufacturing network is not just a technical concept. It's a community effort to build a more resilient, sustainable, and competitive Europe. Thank you all the speakers through the series, and most importantly, thank you to you, our listeners, for joining us. The NARRATE project may be reaching its final milestones, but the era of self-adapting manufacturing has only just begun. And as always, stay resilient.